During World War II, British women served on the kitchen front, bearing the responsibility for keeping the nation fed. There were extreme food shortages due to German U-boat blockades. Britain imported over 2/3 of its food before the war. Women's resourcefulness, labor, and community networking directly prevented domestic starvation. Food rationing began in January 1940. Supply was unpredictable, and women went from store to store, standing in long queues just to secure basic items, like butter, sugar, and bacon. In December 1941, a point system was established. This gave the women an allocation of points to spend on unrationed or imported goods, such as canned Spam or condensed milk. Complex household budgeting was required. Women frequently gave their own portions to their children and working husbands. Neighborhood women survived by building strong networks. Grandmothers, single women, and housewives pooled their ingredients, shared advice on where scarce items could be found, and took turns watching children or waiting in queues. Women volunteered to serve in government-run, nonprofit community kitchens. They served cheap basic meals to workers and families who had been bombed out of their homes by the Blitz. Nutritionist Elsie Widdowson revolutionized the wartime diet. With scientist Robert McCants, they tested a minimal, highly restricted diet on themselves, consisting mostly of cabbage, potatoes, and bread, to prove that the human body could maintain peak health and fitness on homegrown starch. Their data directly shaped the mandatory fortification of the British national loaf with calcium. Ironically, despite the war, the British population emerged in 1945 healthier than it had ever been before. The Ministry of Food introduced a campaign of propaganda featuring the characters Potato Pete and Dr. Carrot to encourage the consumption of homegrown root vegetables. They sponsored a BBC broadcast between 1940 and 1944 called The Kitchen Front Radio Show. Each 5-minute episode, which ran 6 days a week, reached 5 million listeners. The show combined practical cooking advice and comedy. The radio hosts taught such things as how to cook with powdered eggs, whale meat, and Spam. They soaked the whale meat in vinegar and parboiled it to remove its notoriously fishy and oily taste before stewing it with root vegetables. Substitutions of rationed foods became known as victory meals. The Lord Woolton pie contained potatoes, carrots, turnips, and parsnips in an oatmeal stock with a mashed potato crust. A 3-ounce piece of meat could be minced with potatoes and breadcrumbs and then fried in patties. Pigs became central figures on the British home front, serving as the ultimate symbol of community waste recycling and self-sufficiency. They frequently appeared in wartime propaganda posters urging citizens to save their scraps to feed the pig, or showing cartoon pigs helping to feed the Axis powers by turning waste into valuable fat and protein. In 1940, the government established the Small Pig Keepers Council to encourage citizens to form pig clubs. Neighborhoods, factories, schools, fire stations, and even police forces teamed up to raise pigs. Over 8,500 pig clubs would form across Britain, raising hundreds of thousands of pigs. Club members took turns feeding and cleaning the animals. When a pig was slaughtered, half of the meat went to the Ministry of Food for the general rationing pool, and the other half was divided among the club members. To feed these animals without using precious imported grain, the government introduced municipal pig bins on street corners. Households were ordered to separate organic food waste like potato peelings, stale bread, and vegetable scraps and drop them into the community bins. Local councils collected this waste, processed and sterilized it in massive industrial boilers, and turned it into a nutrient-dense animal feed known popularly as Tottenham pudding. Local women managed the daily operation of neighborhood pig clubs. The land girls were given the job of large-scale pig farming on commercial estates, managing breeding, medical care, and slaughter preparation. The Women's Land Army, otherwise called the Land Girls, was established during World War I. They disbanded after the war until needed again in June 1939. With male agricultural workers in short supply, the great need was supplied by women. More than 200,000 land girls worked grueling 40 to 54-hour work weeks in all weather conditions. They operated tractors, milked cows, caught rats, and reclaimed wildland for farming. These young women were responsible for producing over 75% of the food grown inside the UK during the war, and effectively saving the home front from collapse. The women came from all walks of life, including city dwellers from London who had never seen a farm before. It started as a volunteer service, but the National Service Act allowed the government to conscript single women and childless widows into agricultural work. Despite being the literal backbone of Britain's food security, the land girls faced severe inequalities. They received low pay, but money was deducted for food and lodging. They had no time off until the Land Girls Charter in 1943 gave them 1 week paid time off per year. After their service was no longer needed, they received no pension or even recognition. But their contribution is now acknowledged in modern culture. All available land was transformed into productive plots to free up valuable cargo space for military shipping. Private backyards, lawns, public spaces, sports fields, golf courses, and even schoolyards were turned into vegetable gardens. By 1943, there were 1.5 million allotted plots across the UK. In the following year, gardeners were producing over 3 million tons of food. Working together fostered deep social bonds and a collective sense of purpose. The legacy of the movement endures as public allotments remain highly popular across the UK today.